All right, there we go.
All right, recording.
Hello, welcome to our first workshop, and this one's about brainstorming, how to think the next big idea. Just a little introduction on myself. I'm currently about to go into my senior year of high school at New Braunfels High School in Texas, and I'm the current CEO and co-founder of Lecturely Inc., which is an education startup focused on changing education to the students' interests. And also, back in 9th grade during a startup weekend, I co-founded FloatMe, which I just left this past March after raising a $3 million round and hitting a $1 million run rate. And of course, as you know, I am the organizer of Outlook Startup and also a board member of Connections Nonprofit.
Jason Salazar, the Chief Operating Officer and co-founder of Lecturely Incorporated, also the organizer of Outlook Startup, also the finance intern at Liquid Web, a SMB managed hosting provider, and the head of student outreach for Texas' largest hackathon, SoHacks. So what is this big idea? And this big idea is ultimately kind of your product. So when you think about your product is the medium that you're using to find the solution to the problem that you're solving. There has to be a need, which there's a need making up the problem, and then fitting this medium that you are trying to sell and making sure there's a market fit for that. And then it's normally easier to do something that you're passionate about. How do I think big? Identify a problem in a certain industry and break it down into, really question it, really kind of think what problem needs to be solved, how can this problem be solved, and let's challenge this idea and question its existence, and the best idea will stick. And apply the horizon model to kind of see if there's a timeline for your product, and make sure that and see what problem does this idea fix, and do people want to use this idea to fix that problem, and what are you going to do next?
All right. So problem in industry. So how you really think about the problem is start writing down what comes to mind, like what are the problems that are in the world that can be solved or could be solved. And if you can't think about a problem, find an industry that you're passionate about to start this next step of the horizon model. And be sure, like with every problem or industry you look at, make sure that you're passionate about it, because it makes it a lot easier to build the future when you're passionate about it. So now I'd like to go over what's called the horizons model. So what this does is it allows a 50-year idea to come back down into executable steps, or work that's done up to this point to go out into 50 years plus into a mission statement where the core values of your startup are the ones that are driving the future of the company. So that's kind of an introduction on what the horizons model is, and why we do it is to identify the solution you want to have and not as much the problem you want to solve. But you're able to go and identify that solution and figure out the problem from there. So this is kind of what the horizons model looks like. There's some other forms that it can take, but this is a very simple version of it. So you have Horizon 1, which is what's out there now. Horizon 2 is 0 to 5 years. So what can be done soon that pertains to your topic. And then Horizon 3, it's typoed on here, but Horizon 3 is going to be what's 5 to 50 years out, and you want to space it how far you think it is. So if it's just 6 years, you'd want to put it like right by the Horizon 2 line. So that's kind of what the Horizons model is, and I'd like to show you all a demo of the Horizons model in action. So this is what we have for a blank Horizons model. It's a lot easier to do this on paper because it tends to get a little bit messy and unorganized as you fill in a ton of different topics. So let's start out with space travel. We'll keep with that. So we have space travel here, for example, and when we come and think about it, like what exists now for space transportation, not travel. So when I talk about transportation, I'm talking about like sending satellites to space or sending anything to space and while you're in space from there. So currently we have the Falcon 9, which is a SpaceX rocket. We have the Falcon Heavy, Delta, Delta 5, and other different rockets that fall under this model. You wouldn't want to put this like ... right here because you want to fill out as much as you can as well with the timeline. So it just better helps you organize your thoughts and come to the idea that you want. And when thinking about space transportation, immediately, at least for me, my mind goes to warp drives, wormholes, and just stuff that exists far out there. But one thing that you can do is kind of combine what's out there now and what you're thinking about for future travel to help figure out like what are the steps to take that you have to get there. Like although we may not reach this point in our lifetimes, it is possible that we can start the steps to it, and that can be a company. So when it comes to thinking about Horizon 2, like what's just around the corner? So let's reusable rockets. And so why I'm putting reusable rockets in there is because SpaceX is working on reusable rockets, and from what we've seen, they're pretty refurbishable, but not reusable. And what I classify as reusable would be comes back to Earth, and then you can directly launch it again. So I'm putting that somewhere within probably the next four or so years, because we want to also add a timeline to this. So another one that we can think about, Jason, do you have any ideas of the future of space travel or the now of
Like
space travel?
autonomous rovers.
Yeah, which we'll do AI rovers. So that's something that we can put in the Horizon 2 because, well, actually, we can put that kind of closer to the Horizon 1 because there's been a lot of research and also there's been some application of it in current rover. Well,
For like
actually, with the most recent.
for the Horizon 3 out there, for that last box out there, put like supersonic Earth travel where you can go to like New York to Tokyo in like 30 minutes.
Yeah, Earth. Travel. So what he's saying for this one is where you get on a rocket and instead of an airplane, you take a rocket to go from to go across the world. So this is just the start of a Horizons model, and of course you don't you want to put as much information as possible. So this is only the start. When we normally do these, the whiteboard's completely filled up with a lot of different things. And what I like to go through is I like to go over and highlight, okay, this one seems cool. I'll highlight it. And that's one that I'm interested in potentially working on as part of a new company, or what the next steps should be. So this is a really good way to condense all of your solutions and um, thoughts on what the next steps are into a pretty cool little graphic. It's a very powerful tool. So one thing that we like to find for the Horizons model is you may be thinking of a 50-year idea or 50 plus year idea, but you generally want to find the sweet spot, the green zone, that's on the way to the 50-year idea, where you can launch maybe within 1 or 2 years. That gets you on the road to it. Of course, this isn't required for all startups, but I find it super helpful being able to launch and talk to customers and do all of that. So I'd like to cover, like, after you do the Horizons model, even if you identified a problem before, you want to relook at it. So you want to figure out, okay, with this solution, what problem am I really solving? So write it down on a piece of paper, like all the problems you think that it solves, and highlight the core problem you're going after that you're passionate about. And that's the one that you'll be using. After that, you'll definitely want to do some market fit research. So talking to people that are in the market, like potential customers, industry leaders, and seeing their thoughts on your idea, and figuring out if there's a way to sell what you're making. So what's next? After you've done this Horizons model, you realize the solution you want to build. I definitely recommend researching competitors and figuring out what's out there. And then finding your niche, which is how do you differentiate between your company and your competitors. And then also finding your customer base, figuring out who they are and what they like. And after that, you're able to build out your product and just put it into how you think your optimal product would be and outline a roadmap, what it would take to get there. And also, one thing that I'd really like to stress is it's okay to change. So if you have your original idea and you're like, wait, this might not hold up into what we originally thought it would be, but modifying it in this one way will, that's completely okay. Because actually with one of my previous startups, FloatMe, we pivoted or changed about 4 or 5 times before we found what we really were passionate and committed to. Although we still held the same core values, we changed with each iteration. So that's all that we have for this workshop, and thank you for joining us today, either on this Zoom call or in our YouTube channel. Thank you all.